All right, today we are talking about fly line backing, necessary evil, unfortunately. I just got a new reel. This is a Lamson Remix. This is the 678 size, and that is more or less replacing this Reddington Behemoth, which is a great reel. I don't love the fact that the spools bend really easily. So you can get one of these spools, and if it gets bent, it will rub on the frame, make a horrible noise, scratch little metal flakes off. It's not a good time. But that is the price you pay with cast aluminum. And that's why they're inexpensive. So it's a trade-off. But enough about that. Let's talk about the new reel. So this is a Lamson Remix. I have a video on my channel about Lamson reels because there is no obvious way to release the spool from a Lamson reel. You don't undo the drag knob. There's no knob or screw on this side of the spool. It's very simple, although it doesn't seem it. You press your thumbs through the frame against the spool, just like that, and it pops right off. Confused the crap out of me the very first time I saw a Lamson reel. But all you do is push with your thumbs, and it pops right off. Anyway, got the new reel. Need to put backing and a line on it. So, let's talk about backing. This is 20-pound Rio Dacron. Now, why would you use a specialized fly line backing when it appears to just be braided line? Now, what's the difference between this and something like Suffix braid or cheap spider wire or Power Pro, stuff you would use on a bait caster or even a spinning reel? I can tell you for one thing, if you've ever touched spider wire, it is awful and it will cut your fingers into tiny little pieces. This stuff, I don't like it for anything, but I have some because it's cheap. Great Catfish line. But you certainly don't want to put this on your fly reel. The deal with this Dacron backing is it's softer and flatter, and it is not as sharp as regular braid. If you put regular braid like this, even this 8-carrier Suffix, which is pretty soft, it is such a small diameter, especially in 15-pound, that if you touch that under tension, especially when it's ripping off the end of your reel, it'll cut the crap out of you, and that's not good. Now, I have and do use regular braid as backing sometimes. And when I do that, it's on reels where I'll never see the backing. Realistically, you're probably never going to see your backing on your little 2-3 weight trout reel. If you're fishing for a little 12-inch trout. You're probably never going to see the backing on... I'm probably never going to see the backing on this reel because I'm mostly use it for smallmouth. But anything can happen. So, let's say you accidentally butt hook a 20-pound catfish. You're off to the races. And cut to the clip of me accidentally butt hooking a 20-pound catfish. I still got him. Oh no. Oh no. This is bad. How am I ever going to gain ground on this thing? Yeah. I think I just snagged him. I think I just snagged him. Oh, geez. Oh, Lord. No, he'll break the line before my rod. I'm letting him go. But, oh, my. I am trying to catch him. It's just going to take a little while. Look at this. Whatever it isn't small. Oh, not under the boat. Not under the boat, friend. There he is. Let's get a picture for the kids at home. Oh, Lordy. Now, are we going to be able to get this jerkbait out of your butt is the question. And we're back. Anyway, the nice thing about having usable braid, or, usable backing, is that if something like that happens, you're covered. The other problem with braid like this is it can really pack into itself and bite into itself when it's mashed onto a spool, like it would be here. You can have that problem on a bait caster too. I mean, if you wind that on really, really tight, you can have that same problem. It cuts into itself. And also, this kind of braid has a tendency to spin around something smooth like the arbor of a fly reel, which is terrible. If you've ever seen braid spin on a spool, it is the worst thing in the world. I remember years ago, we were just getting into fishing for bass, and I was fishing a tiny little, basically a spinning trout rod, like 5-foot, ultralight, and a tiny little, like, 1,000-size reel. And we didn't know anything about bass fishing. And so I threw a Senko and caught this, like, awesome 20-inch smallmouth, big, fat river fish. And he's just taking off. And the braid on my spool is just spinning around in circles. And my buddy we're in a canoe, and my buddy's like, I said, "What, Adam, what do I do? What do I do?" And he's like, I don't know. And that's why you have to have a backing underneath braided lines for spinning reels. That is a different story altogether. We're going to put this on here. The easiest way to do it, in my opinion, is with a rod. I will take the butt section of a rod, of a 4-piece, put the reel on it, orient the handle to the retrieve side of your preference. I retrieve with my left. Then I'm going to pop the spool out. Maybe. And we're going to tie what's called an arbor knot. Arbor knot because this is the arbor of the spool. An arbor knot is stupid simple. All it is, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see this or not, this is pretty small diameter line, is you'll tie an overhand knot around the spool. Very simple. And then you're going to tie another overhand knot around the standing line coming off the spool. And that overhand knot is going to lock down the first overhand knot. And I'm going to need scissors or nippers or something. How about this? So that second knot locks down the first knot. So when you go to turn this, that line shouldn't spin. This is really stupid to do with a knife. Pause. I'm going to go find a pair of scissors. All right, so you got that arbor knot. Tighten it down on the arbor. Just pull both ways like this. Get nice and tight so it's not going to slip when you go to reel. As an aside, Loon makes these forceps. They have a great pair of scissors on them. Trim that. Pop this back into the spool, or back into the reel, paying attention to where that line's going. Maybe. There we go. Now what I like, see what I did? There we go. What I like to do is hold this line out at the end of that rod butt, that 4-piece butt. So I'll hold that, and at the same time, reel, and I'll set the spool of backing flat like that. People stick a pencil through there. Some people have an actual device for this. I have not yet gotten that fancy, unfortunately. Should buy one, probably, but never have. And now I like to get the reel actually seated. There we go. Not enough drag. I like to just roll that backing side to side, filling up the arbor. Let's see if you can see me moving my hand back side to side there. So you're filling the arbor up evenly. And then just do this for like half an hour. And you want to pack enough in there to fill the arbor so that your fly line isn't, halfway down it. Which, I mean, there's really nothing wrong with that. It just makes it a little harder to handle. But if you actually are going to need the backing, you want to make sure you get enough in there. That's one of the nice things about having this done at a fly shop. They've got machines that can actually count the distance So if you say, oh, I'm fishing for tarpon, I need 200 yards of gel spun backing. They can actually measure out 200 yards, and that's very convenient. I don't have that luxury. I'm just going to eyeball it. This is a 200-yard spool. I certainly don't need the whole spool for an 8-weight. Just like I said, just do this for half an hour, and probably fast forward this part. All right, so there we go. There's some backing on the spool, and now we need a fly line. And this is where you have to think about methods of attachment. Modern fly lines come in a couple of different configurations at the back end. Sometimes they have a loop, sometimes they don't. So that is going to determine how you're going to attach this fly line to the backing. I have an airflow velocity weight forward clear intermediate line. This is an 8-weight, which I am excited to use. I don't think I've ever had a nice 8-weight intermediate line. Again, like I always say, look for stuff like this on eBay. I bought this on eBay. I think I paid $25 for it, which I guarantee you is more than 50% off what it would be on any store shelf anywhere. Now all we got to do is find the end. All right, so on modern manufactured fly lines, almost every single one of them that I've ever seen, you'll find this, a small tag that says reel end or this to reel. That's because this is the end that goes to reel. This is probably just running line. It's, the tapers at the other end of the line. So, locate that. Get rid of that sticker because you don't need that. And now this is where you'll find what you've got on the end of your line. This has nothing. So, now you've got options. You can tie a nail knot, which I am just absolutely awful at. I used to do it all the time. I used to carry around a nail knot tool and attach stuff with a nail knot all the time, and I just haven't done it in years. And I'm very, very bad at doing it offhand. I'm very, very bad at doing it without a tool. So we're not going to do that. What I like to do is an Albright knot, which seems to go through the guides pretty good, in my opinion. I tie an Albright or an Alberto, which is just kind of a play on an Albright with extra wraps. I tie an Alberto for all of my saltwater spin or surf casting, from leader to braid. I use an Alberto for that almost every time. Look that up. I'm not going to teach you how to do it. Basically, you're going to make a loop like this, then you're going to wrap the braid in and around it a bunch of times, and then back over it a bunch of times, and that'll give you a knot. That is what I like because it's easy to do, it's consistent, and it holds well. And honestly, for me, if you can tie a knot well, and you can dress it well, I think that sort of knot is going to serve you better than trying to tie, an FG or a Bimini twist or something that is complicated and you don't tie well. So I'd rather have a well-tied knot that doesn't hold as well compared to a poorly tied knot that might have a higher strength rating. You know what I mean? So that is why, for stuff like this, for lots of things, I use an Alberto. An Alberto is an Albright knot. But when you finish an Albright, this is the end of an Albright. I would take this braid back up through this loop and pull it tight, and that would be an Albright. So instead of finishing like that, an Alberto rewraps up the length of the loop. It's hard to do This is hard to do and show you at the same time. So you come back up this loop and rewrap 7, 6, 8 wraps, whatever you're doing, and then back through the loop. Extra security. And I like that. I find that a straight up Albright can come loose under hard casting. Now that wouldn't be a problem in this application. You could definitely use a straight up regular Albright knot here. But for things like leaders and stuff like that, I prefer an Alberto. Gives you those extra wraps. If I could get them to wrap, my word. It goes to show you, as soon as you try to do something on camera, you're just terrible at it. Back through the loop. Try to dress this a little bit. There we go. And with all knots, you should always lubricate them. Pull this tight. Woohoo! And the funny thing about using a knot like this on fly line is it'll bite into the fly line. So you just got to dress it carefully, ease it down as you tighten the knot up. There we go. And there you have an Alberto knot. Now I'm going to clean this up a little bit. Pull this side tight, pull that side tight. Now I'm going to snip off my excess on each side. Try not to snip off my fingers. And then you've got a knot that will go fairly well through your guides. Again, it isn't as clean as a nail knot. A nail knot is definitely the king of shooting through the guides. But, one, I don't foresee this not going through these guides. Two, I don't really want to tie a nail knot, so this is what we'll do. And now comes the fun part. That's getting that fly line onto this reel. Now you can do what I was doing earlier with the backing. Set the spool here and hold this using this rod butt and reel and pray it comes off the spool. It rarely works that easily. We're gonna try it. No way. This is, oh, I hate this. And we got line twist issues, and I wish fly line manufacturers wouldn't put notches and crap on fly line spools like this. So you could actually do this like this. Here we go. The bottom doesn't have any notches in it. Now I'm going to, or does it? I'm going to try not to twist the line up. Man. This never, ever goes as well as I want it to. And a good idea, anytime you restring or string up a new fly line, or you're kidding me, this doesn't even have a loop in the head. This is what you get with bargain fly lines. Sorry folks at Airflow. This is the, what did I say? The velocity line. So you get 0 loops when you buy one of these. FYI. So that means we're going to tie a perfection loop in the head. So I have something to loop my leaders onto. So this video just got all the more complicated. Alright, so here again we have a dilemma of which knot to use. There are a lot of options for tying a loop in the end of your fly line. A perfection loop is probably the most common. You can use a non-slip mono loop. You could use a surgeon's loop. You could use all kinds of things. I like a non-slip mono knot because it's easy to tie and it doesn't cut into itself the same way a perfection loop would. With something as large of a diameter as fly line, cutting into itself isn't that big of a problem, but intermediate fly line especially is very, very soft, and it will cut into itself. It can cut itself in half if you pull it against it, if you pull it against itself hard enough, tight enough in the right direction. So I am going to use a mono or non-slip mono loop, even though it doesn't lay as straight as a perfection loop. That is my preference, and it's easier to tie. Now, sometimes these are hard to tie without having something in the loop. Usually you would use a non-slip mono loop to tie on a fly. Great, not for a streamer because it gives the streamer a little more action. I like to wrap the standing end around my pinky, my opposite hand, to make that loop. And once I do that, again, this will never be the best way to watch knots be made. You should probably go to animatedknots.com because they are awesome. And it's like the coolest thing in the world. They'll show you every step, frame by frame. But I loop that around my pinky. And for this diameter, I think 3-4 turns is probably plenty. I think the amount of turns you give it is based on breaking strength. At least Lefty Kray's like original recipe for this knot. So I think 4 turns is about right for fly line. And now I've made a loop that's entirely too large, as you can see. So I gotta fix this. And there you have it, a non-slip mono loop. It's kind of ugly, and like I said, intermediate fly line bites into itself. So you have to be careful when you're dressing your knots, especially when they're in the fly line themselves, not to cut it with itself. I'm going to try and cut this tag down really close. And this is a much larger loop than your factory fly line will have. Doesn't bother me. Again, I'm going to cut that tag some more. Like I said, you can see, you can almost tell I tightened this, the wrap around this a little too soon, and it started biting into the fly line. I don't think it's a problem. I don't think that's going anywhere, but you can tell that loop doesn't lay absolutely straight with the standing end of the line. Is it that big of a deal for me for an 8-weight that I'm going to be throwing streamers on 99% of the time? Absolutely not. Like, that doesn't bother me one bit. If it did bother you and your presentation was something that this would affect it, then I would use a perfection loop. Anyway, that's backing and a fly line onto your new reel. Thanks for watching.